Hi, I'm Mark Wybrow and this is the Electronic Cafe, the channel for the lovers of electronic music.
And I'm Andy McNabb, so let's get started. So welcome to another brilliant interview edition of the Electronic Cafe, where Mark and I will show you the afternoon we spent just recently with the fabulous Logan Sky, one half of the duo Logan Sky and Stephen Jones, who brought out an album called European Lovers earlier this year. A lot of our Facebook friends were really making a noise about this album, so we checked it out and thought it was fantastic, and Logan kindly said he'd come on the show. So we'll show you that, actually get to know more about him and Stephen's work. And also, if you haven't subscribed to this channel and you love music, press that subscribe button right now. If you know friends that love music as much as you do, press that subscribe button. There's going to be loads more interviews, more hot stuff specials talking about new music, and there'll be a competition coming over forthcoming episodes where one of you lucky people will get to win this very rare K93 10-inch EP. So for those who don't know what this is all about, there was only 2,000 of these made. This is where Peter Hook, Jazz Coleman and Geordie Walker got together and did some jamming. Apparently they thought the original tapes were lost, but thankfully 3 tracks were found and put on this very cool piece of vinyl. So look out to how you can win that in a few episodes' time. But this is the sort of stuff we're going to be bringing to Electronic Cafe. So, as I say, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't joined our Facebook community and you love music and you want to discover new bands, it's absolutely the place you should be. But let's show you the interview that Mark and I did just recently with the fabulous Logan Sky.
Yeah, I was really into that kind of being in a band, and
yeah,
I thought I was the next kind of Nick Rhodes, obviously, but obviously not.
You wasn't, because I was, but you was the one after me, I heard.
So, hi everyone, welcome to this special edition of Electronic Cafe, you know, where we get to meet some of the artists that we've been talking about over the last few months. And today's guest is no exception. He's one half of the brilliant Logan Sky and Stephen Jones. Logan, welcome to Electronic Cafe, my friend. Lovely to have you here.
Nice to meet you guys. Yeah, finally.
Yeah, finally. So we've been talking in emails. It's good to have you. Mate, congratulations on this, European Lovers. This is what kind of got me to reach out to you. Amazing piece of work. You guys must be really proud of it.
Well, I think, yeah, we've been building up to it for probably about 6 years. I've been working with Stephen Jones for 6 years.
Yeah.
And I think in that time we've made, 6 albums and 6 EPs.
I saw that output. Is that in 4 years or 5 years?
Yes, it was 6 years. So, yeah.
A lot of output.
So we're very proud of this. But I think it's taken us a while to get to it because we tend to work very fast. And I think Stephen Jones, being a bit of a yoga enthusiast, he likes to, as soon as he's written a track, he likes to get it straight out. We like to, it's part of the process really, to release the tracks quickly rather than to hold on to them, because it's frustrating holding on to a track.
Sure.
So, we like to put our creative energies into the world.
And this album now, on Bandcamp, have you got a website that people can buy this from? Because Mark will put a link up on this for our viewers to go and find you. So I'm guessing you're on Bandcamp, right?
Yeah, I mean, the album is available on all digital platforms.
Right.
But yeah, it's best for the artists to use Bandcamp, as most people
use Bandcamp, everyone.
Yeah, so, no, but there is a quick link we've got. It's www.i-art.co.uk. So that's like a quick link that takes you through to our work.
Okay, yeah, we'll put that up there.
Yeah, and I've got my own logansky.co.uk as well. So.
Okay, so we'll put those links up there for you, mate, so people can go and buy it and make sure the artist gets most of the royalties, which they should do anyway. Yeah, you talk about the amount of albums and EPs. It's a pretty impressive back catalogue. There is a definite European feel that flows through the veins of this stuff. What's the story there? Is it something that is it mostly your inspiration on that bit, or is it Steve, or both, or?
Well, from my point of view, I was brought up in a little village near a small town, and I was quite musical and quite creative, and I felt the school environment was a little bit restrictive sometimes. So yeah. I think I was always trying to escape a bit in some ways, and I think I remember I had a small black and white TV, so before bed I would be like late at night watching these black and white 70s French films that BBC Two used to seem to have on all the time.
I remember those.
Yeah, and they're a bit kind of off the wall, a bit weird, a bit intelligent, a bit emotional, a bit sexy, a bit existential.
Yeah, that makes sense. You can hear bits of that in here, which is it makes sense.
It's got a definite European feel to your music, which is great. And if you it's electronic and it's got that classic electronic sound of the DNA throughout it. And equally, the artwork you use is a very kind of European looking artwork that was probably quite relevant at the time when these Ultravox albums came out, or Classic Nouveau albums came out back in the 80s. That they used that imagery then as well, which you've picked up on, which is it's a great
I think
thing
basically the imagery we are using is basically a combination of those old 70s black and white films with the kind of Visage and Ultravox covers, and that takes me back to my youth. When I was listening to Visage and Ultravox, they had songs like New Europeans and
that's right, yeah,
Moon Over Moscow, and they really kind of chimed with me, and I was when I discovered Japan also with tracks like European Sun, which is like fantastic track.
Yeah, it's a great track.
We're lost, not found, the void profound. European lovers fracturing each other.
Yeah, there was always a feeling especially with Ultravox, when they were talking about New Europeans, there was a feeling of, Europe was now available for everyone. There was a kind of feeling of openness. And
I love the early Ultravox stuff. We did an episode on that. Great sound, and you're right, it's a very European feel to it. It's brilliant.
I think equally when Midure joined and they used Connie Plank for a couple of their early albums as well, they stayed with that European Germanic sort of sound that was prevalent at the time. So it's good that you're carrying on that thread. I mean, I really like that.
Well, I've had the privilege of working with Robin Simon, who's the guitarist in Visage.
Oh, right, okay.
And he was in the original lineup of Ultravox, and he's told me at great length of his trips to sort of Dusseldorf and Connie Plank studio, and
amazing.
He definitely has a real passion. He remembers those times, and he's passionate about electronic music. Even though he's a guitarist, I think he's always been promoting electronic music, and he's quite a good person for inspiring myself to kind of. He's always trying to push me one step further electronically to kind of work around his guitar parts.
So Logan, how does it work with you and Stephen? Because you're a keyboard player and a producer. You're very prolific. Do you write all these songs, and then when you get a batch, that becomes an EP or an album, or do you write specifically for an album, or do you write the music and you send it to Stephen? And how does it work?
Yeah, I'll try and summarize it because sometimes it's quite a long process. But yeah, it starts with we may have 4 or 5 demos kicking around that we liked or we've liked for a year or so. yeah, but then we write maybe a new song that kind of goes with those four. But then it kind of, we need a focus really at that point. So we generally try to think about a theme or some visuals. And once we've got a theme, we'll then write another track or come up with a possible cover image or some ideas for the cover. And ideally, we'll try to get an album title as soon as possible at that point. Because once you've got the album title, you then get this big rush of kind of excitement and focus, and we can quite easily write another 2 or 3 tracks just off the back of an album title.
Yeah, you get some momentum going.
Yeah, you could really get the momentum at that point. And then usually we have about 10 tracks by that point. So, I mean, a lot of bands would probably put the album out at that point, but we kind of say, oh, hold on. So we tend to then get involved in a video a bit more. We actually start doing some footage, and because the footage can lead to other ways of looking at the album artwork or additional artwork for the inner sleeves and things. So yeah, the video footage becomes quite important.
Yeah, sure.
And then generally we then end up with about 14 tracks, and we knock a couple of tracks off and we're there.
Nice. And how did you and Steve get together? Because you've been together quite some time now. Because me and Mark, we literally knew each other from almost when Mark was a baby and I was literally growing up all our lives. But I mean, what's the relationship with you and Steve? How did you guys meet?
Well, it's basically through Steve Strange.
That's a nice way to be connected.
Well, Steve Strange, he was a connector. He did, Steve Strange, rest in peace, I should say. But he did have like a restless, creative energy. He was always thinking of things. I think he was almost had a bipolar kind of situation going on where he was have frantic months of being really creative.
Yeah.
And he needed people to telephone, otherwise to get these ideas out of his system, because he didn't have, he didn't have all the software that we have and all the synths that we have. So he'd be on the phone to me saying, Logan, he'd be singing some ideas down the phone to me, and I'd be playing like over the phone or something. And equally, he'd be on the phone to Stephen Jones, because Stephen Jones was at ITV back then as a video. Right. Stephen Jones was involved with making some videos for the Visage songs. Okay. And I think he kind of realised, Steve Strange, that, Logan Sky and Stephen Jones, they should probably connect a bit more. And he started telling us we should send stems to each other for some of his own tracks, some of Steve Strange's tracks, and also video clips. So we started this kind of sharing of information, me and Stephen Jones. Yeah, that was how the connection started.
Wow.
But the actual working together started when I noticed that Stephen Jones put a song out called Strange Magic. And I was blown away by the video, especially. It's kind of all set in Egypt and quite occultist. And I thought, again, it's got that escapist quality to it that we're talking about. And I thought, I want to remix this just so that I can listen to the track over and over again. So I thought, I'm definitely going to remix this. And that's how it started, really.
Wow.
I'm gonna make you feel strange magic.
You sound, obviously you've met some inspiring people like Steve Strange. Who else has inspired you over time? I could throw some guesses at people, but I'm normally wrong, so I'll leave it for you to say, because I hate being presumptuous. But who has inspired you, mate?
Well, there's people who've inspired me, and then people who I've worked with, and sometimes they can be the same. So
yes, that's fine. Give us hope. Great to know your sort of, what makes you tick.
Well, when I was in my teens, I was quite inspired by, by Japan and Nick Rhodes in particular.
You just tick Mark's box there.
Yeah.
Well, Nick Rhodes was like why I bought my first synthesizer, because that early Duran and Japan were like my bands. They were the ones that as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, I just thought I want to buy a synthesizer because of Nick Rhodes. So I can totally understand that.
I mean, it was a bit like the moment I realised that Nick Rhodes had this kind of interesting keyboard, I don't know, keyboard policy in a way. He had a kind of way of playing that was different to everyone else.
Yeah.
I had to buy a synthesizer, and I think I joined a band when I was 15. I had to go to Norwich, which was a city, and had to be driven there for rehearsals each week. And so,
wow.
Yeah, so it was, I thought, I was really into that kind of being in a band, and I thought I was the next kind of Nick Rhodes, obviously, but obviously not.
You wasn't, because I was, but you was
I think
you was the one after me, I heard.
Well, I think we were all a bit like this, just kind of, it just became an inspiration. And
I get the Japan. I mean, I don't know if you saw them. Like I saw them in, I think it's 80, 81, the Hammersmith Odeon, and they were so polished. And when you look at old video footage of them now, you look at Mick Carr on the bass. When have you ever heard anyone like Mick Carr play a bass since? Again, God rest his soul as well. Amazing band in terms of instrument. Jansen on the drums. It's such a brilliant.
I mean, they changed from being a glam band, and then you had the Polaroids and the Quiet Life sort of period, and then Tin Drum is such a grown-up album for effectively they were still relatively young guys when they made it, but you listen to it and it's such a complex grown-up album for some young chaps to be making. It's amazing.
I think this is another reason why I'm quite inspired by, say, David Sylvian or Steve Jansen, for example. They seem to push their minds one step ahead of their age. They seem to be almost in some kind of philosophical musical space. They were 10 steps ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing is, I think the proof of that is you're absolutely right, mate, because
I think their musical skills develop so quickly.
And the nice thing about it, if you listen to the Japan stuff, it stood the test of time pretty well. Which is always for me a great sign. The quality never dates, and they still sound great. It's like I was playing Spirit of Eden the other day. I don't know if Talk were a big band for you, but just such. It's still, for me, that's such a brilliant album still, and it was done in early 90s. Just incredible. But Japan. But I think I
read an article, Logan, that you bumped into Nick Rhodes once.
Well, he when I was in 2001, 2002, when I was 20 years ago, when I was in my first London band, Riviera F, the girls in the band, they bumped into Nick Rhodes in Harvey Nichols and gave him
It would have to be Harvey Nichols, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think it was in the left in Harvey Nichols, and they passed him a CD. And then I think a few weeks later he came back saying, I liked it, but can you try another one or something? So
oh wow.
So then we did this song called Now We've Got Europe, actually. We had a song called Now We've Got Europe and International Lover. So again, you've got the European lovers kind of influence. And we sent that on CD to Nick Rhodes, and he loved it that time. And he managed to get us a deal with Capitol Records for him to produce. He produced an EP for us.
Oh, awesome!
4 tracks. So we went to Duran Studios for a couple of weeks, and
wow,
it was fantastic.
Nice.
It was just when Duran had reformed, so we met all of the band, and he was working with Stephen Duffy as well. So that was fantastic to me.
Was that the Devil's project?
That's one of my favourite. Yeah, that's definitely an album that everyone should try and listen to. The Devils.
Yeah, because it's got Barbarella's, isn't it, on it? And it's a great album. I wish they'd bring it out on vinyl, actually. I mean, they put it on CD, but...
I'd quite like to hear the original cassette, because apparently it stemmed from an old cassette that Duffy had of some old Duran recordings. So.
Wow. So you actually met Nick Rhodes.
So
I'm very jealous.
Met your hero.
Full of hope. Barbarellas, we named our first group after Barbarella's got to play on stage. The Barbarella's car park now instead of Barbarella's. I loved you, the Barbarellas felt
What's the chance of something like this coming out on vinyl, buddy? Is that something that might happen in the future, or he's just going to carry on. I mean, because obviously, the good thing is people have options. So, I mean, for me, I've got a CD player as well, so I've got no problem buying this. But for the real purists that just want vinyl, do you think that's something you might do, or is it something you might do for the next release, or you're just never going to do?
Well, the frustrating thing is that I think the album, when we did this album, we thought, okay, let's not rush it so much this time.
Yeah.
Let's make it something of real substance, something that we can put out on vinyl. We were actually thinking that, like a year and a half ago, whenever it was. So let's do something for vinyl, really a proper, decent, really good album.
This is definitely good enough. So fingers crossed.
But then, as you probably heard, in the last year, because of various situations, and including boats being stuck in the Suez Canal, vinyl now takes 8 months or a year, and the big labels have moved in, and all of the small people have been nudged out. And I think you can't even produce a vinyl now unless you've got, unless you've actually got an independent label that's put vinyl out before. I think
there's such a massive backlog on vinyl per se that, I mean, when we were speaking to Passenger S, I think it was.
It was. It's fair.
He said that he's got a 3-month turnaround from sending it off to getting the test pressings back, and then if the test pressings are okay, it's another 3 months on that. So all being well, there's a 6-month window for getting your vinyl back. And he said you can go the option where you don't have the test pressing. He said, but in the past they've had so many mistakes on print runs that you need the test pressing. So you got to think about 6 months from sending it off to getting it back, and you're always getting bumped by big record companies who got precedent with the stuff that's coming through.
So wrong.
So I think there is a possibility that some record label, possibly someone like Cherry Red, for example, we might approach them and see if they'll put a couple of our things out.
You're right. You can absolutely imagine it's a nice gatefold and being on vinyl. It's perfectly made for that. So fingers crossed. Anyone else? I mean, obviously you've worked with some great people. Is there anyone you'd love to collaborate with that you've given the chance? I mean, obviously you've worked with Nick Rose, which is amazing, but anyone else you'd like to collaborate with?
Yeah,
and you've worked with Steve Strange. You've got a pretty impressive list, Mr. Sky, to say.
Because when I think about it, we've had so many great sax players. So we had Andy Hamilton, who played Rio.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
He played sax on one of those 4 tracks we did.
Amazing.
So, yeah. I've always loved saxophone. And we've had Ian Ritchie, who was in Deaf School.
Yeah.
He's done saxophone on a couple of tracks. And we've had Gary Barnacle, who's worked with Soft Cell.
He's worked with everyone, I think, hasn't he?
And Visage. We've had the luxury of all these wonderful sax players. And I mean, they take my breath away whenever I get hear a sax part from one of those guys.
Yeah, I bet.
And I've had the privilege of working with Steve Barnacle, who's incredibly talented on the bass.
So you've had a lot of boxes ticked.
Yeah, I mean, so I think my true answer to this question is that I'd rather work with someone who's like an unknown musician.
Yeah. Like
someone probably a bit younger who's like an experimental clarinetist or a jazz drummer, someone who's unknown. Some just to kind of make some odd experimental sounds.
That's quite cool.
Corrupt state. You're losing this game. Corrupt state. Flip the switch, the world goes insane. Corrupt state. You're losing this game.
I asked this question to everyone, mate, and I know it's a really tough one, but Desert Island Disc, if there was one you could take, and most people, oh God, just one, and I'm always getting it wrong. I've got an album in my head, and I bet it's nothing like what you're going to say. So I'll tell you it is afterwards.
Mine would be a compilation album. Can I have a compilation?
Of course you can.
Best of.
Yeah, it's a Desert Island Disc, mate. Take what you want.
Well, who are you thinking of first? Can you tell me?
I thought you were going to say Quiet Life by Japan.
Well, you're pretty close because the compilation would be basically Exercising Ghosts, which is which has got a nice selection of those tracks on anti-drum tracks and some more kind of spiritual kind of instrumentals. So.
I nearly got one right. I was almost there because I've got every other time, mate. I've got it completely wrong.
Yeah. I probably would have gone Gentlemen Take Polaroids actually, rather than
That's my favourite Japan album, I have to say. Yeah.
Only by a touch. Then again, it's such a short album.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's definitely my favourite. Obviously, it's been impossible to play live. Is there any potential that you guys are going to play live at any time or do some dates or?
Anyone who knows me and Stephen Jones knows that we only play like live once or twice a year anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm now living in Hamburg and Stephen's in Liverpool.
So
with the restrictions, that there's in place. So currently the answer is no. And in some ways it's quite refreshing to say no.
I appreciate your honesty, and you're right, it's tough. But as long as you're still working and producing great music that people can listen to, brilliant.
We spoke a little bit before we pressed the record button, but there's a nice array of synthesizers behind you. Do you always try and use hard synths rather than software synths, or what's your policy on that?
So I've got this is a vintage Korg MS-20.
That's awesome.
But because I've moved to Hamburg now, I wasn't able to bring my Korg Poly 6 or Korg Monopoly or Juno 106. So a lot of my vintage stuff is still back in London. But
right.
I've been using the DeepMind 6, which is kind of like a Juno 106. It's quite heavy. And then you've got there's a couple of Behringer things. But I do always reach for vintage. Well, I always reach for piano first. I do write a lot of tracks on piano first.
So there's a lot of piano on this, which is great.
Yeah. Then I'll get like a bass line going using either a Poly 6 kind of. I do a VST of the Poly 6, but then I'll always replace it with quite a later stage. I usually replace the bass line with a kind of a vintage.
What do you record onto? Do you use like a Logic, or do you use propeller heads, or?
Well, it's a bit of a sad story. I've been using Logic 5 actually on the PC for the last 20 years. But that PC just seems to have died.
Oh no!
But it's fine. I've got Logic 9 on a Mac, but I think I'm going to be slowed down now because of all the different shortcut keys. I mean, obviously Logic 9 is a lot better, but I'm just used to all of the shortcuts on the PC and the restrictions because you can't time stretch, you can't. So it's more like an old just recording. What you record is what you get.
That's good in a way, I think, because it kind of fits in with the technology at the time when these albums were recorded, like the early 80s albums. They didn't have the cut and paste ideology or the time stretch or stuff. So it's good that what you're working on now probably fits in with the same work ethic as those.
That is basically the work ethic. So if there was a Logic 2.0 available for PC now or something, I'd quite happily go back to an even earlier version of Logic. Just something that records the bits and gets the job done. I don't really want all of these choices. I hate knowing that I can just switch a Jupiter 8 VST up. I don't want that choice. I just want to use, the MS-20 or the DeepMind 6. I can do 99% of what I need just with those two synths. I don't need all of these soft synths. Great little book, Another Green World by which is all about one of Brian Eno's albums.
Yeah,
that's quite a good series, that 33 and a third, because they do. I think there's probably more, but I've seen the Duran Duran Rio one, and they give you. I've never read one, but they give you the story behind the album, but the actual technicalities behind it, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading the Rio one, but it's a little bit based on America, really. But yeah, that Brian Eno book, he talks a lot about, including mistakes, and Brian Eno's always been trying to do things incorrectly, really. He's always trying to look at adding as many mistakes in as possible.
That's why it makes him a genius, I guess.
No, but I think that sounds better though. It's because it's not perfect. If everything is so perfect and quantized and literally faultless, you lose that human feel to it. So what, as a producer, with your producer's hat on, which producers do you really admire?
Well, I was always blown away by Propaganda's A Secret Wish album.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's the remix album, The Wishful Thinking.
Yeah.
And I think people would think it's Trevor Horn, but I think it's is it like Bob Crucial is one of the producers?
Yeah, it wasn't him, was it? Everyone, you're right. Everyone thought it was Trevor Horn, but he was too busy doing Frankie, and it was someone else. Yeah,
so I think someone like Bob Crucial, who I've actually had the privilege of working with again.
Showing off now.
I think you mentioned before Alan Wilder, obviously, but is he a producer as such?
Yeah.
So I mean, he worked with Knights of Rep, didn't he? He produced some stuff, and I think he was sonically the sound behind, but that moulded Depeche Mode into what they became.
That's right. And then there was Flood, he worked with.
Yeah.
So he had a very kind of clean. He understood the importance of gaps in enjoying the silence, basically.
Yeah.
I see what you did there. Mate, take table for four, right? For Mr. Sky, who would you want to join you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've had the privilege of going for meals with Nick Rhodes already, but I think I was quite young at the time, so I didn't really have any in-depth discussions. I think we'd be like talking about whether Paul McCartney's better than John Lennon and stuff like that, whereas I wanted to talk a bit more philosophical.
So he'd be one, would he, still, even though you've
and then I'd probably...
Good shout.
And then I'd probably invite... I don't know if you listen to Tim's listening parties, but there was one recently for Gentlemen Take Polaroids, and Steve Jansen was on Twitter, and he seems like a really lovely guy with the way he looks on his back catalogue, and he really cares about every moment of the whole Japan experience. He seems to really have a real soul and understanding for it. So I'd love to bring Steve Jansen, and then and I think just to stir things up a bit, I'd probably bring his brother, David Sylvian.
Yeah, I think it would stir things up a bit as well. That's great. A great table, though. Wow.
Well, Nick Rhodes would like it if Jansen and Sylvian were there.
Yeah, I could talk to Steve while Nick's talking to David. Yeah.
So what new bands are you listening to, or what's pricked your ears up recently?
Yeah, Vandal Moon. Have you heard of him? He makes kind of dark, kind of slightly goth sound.
Yeah, a lot of our listeners have been talking about them. I think you put them up as well, Mark, haven't you?
I did a hot stuff on Vandal Moon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think anyone who likes The Cure should instantly go and listen to Vandal Moon.
Good shout.
But yeah, there's a bit of an electronic side to them as well. So and then there's a guy on Instagram who I keep spotting, and I listen to his music. He's called Pastel Hell.
Don't know that one.
No, he's kind of got a bit of a sound of like the Orange Juice or the Smith.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or Echo and the Bunnymen.
Oh. I love Orange Juice, so I'll check that out. Definitely.
Yeah, he's a bit less electronic, but Pastel Hell.
Okay, good stuff.
Then Soft Riot, have you heard of him? He's kind of quite heavy, kind of EBM, but vintage synth EBM kind of sound.
Yeah.
He likes to play the wrong notes a lot. He likes to play discordant kind of sounds. So you kind of think, well, hang on, that chord doesn't work with that chord, but he just goes with it. And after you've heard the whole track, you think, hang on, that was genius. So it's a bit like Brian Eno thing going on there. So and he also makes some really lovely slow instrumentals, which I always have on constant rotation, which cross between, Front 242 and Brian Eno, really. So he is. Yeah, there's a guy called Marble Slave, a band called Marble Slave, who are a bit kind of dark as well.
I've heard of, but I've not heard them, so I'll check them out. That's some good artists there for our guys to check out, our viewers.
Good for us to check out as well.
Exactly.
You guys do a lot for new bands. I really do appreciate it. Really, it's great.
Thank you. We try to. I mean, like as Andy said, there's not really a platform so much these days for people to get their music out there. And I mean, as we said earlier, I mean, we've had over 100,000 views. I mean, we're trying to promote what we're listening to and what people are listening to and just pulling everyone together. So we're trying to do our little bit, but we do appreciate that it's really difficult for any artists that are signed to majors and aren't Ed Sheeran and stuff like that to get their stuff out there. And if we can do a little bit just to promote some unknown artists. I mean, you rattled off a list there, which I'd heard of a couple, but there was a couple that I made a note of. I thought, if I like your stuff and you like that stuff, I'm going to go and check that out. And I think that's what people do.
Yeah. We the whole reason we have the hot stuff bit, we don't do it so much the interview stuff because the interviews are only 45-minute shows. But when we talk about a band for half an hour, we have 4 or 5, hot stuff albums. It's just stuff we're listening to right now that we're loving. And cliches, devoid of meaning. Lovers turning to losers, actors forgetting their lines again.
There was a band I discovered because of your show. They were called, was it Psychic Arm?
Yes.
They've got like a kind of, some like street lights on the front cover.
That's right, yeah. The album's called Octopus, based in Denmark or Norway. I hope I got that right. They'll get to have a go at me now. It was Martin, I think. Yeah, good band. Yeah, they're all good. There's some, and the thing for me, mate, when I hear stuff like this that I don't hear on the radio, it pisses me off because it should be, because unfortunately, I find it frustrating. I talk to so many people in life that go, I love music, but I just don't take the time to discover it. And I go, well, then that's what me and Mark are trying to do. But when people do put the effort in, the reward is so amazing when you find stuff that ticks your box, and this definitely ticks the box for us, by the way.
Yeah, we've been lucky that on previous albums, we've had Janice Long has played
Yes, I saw
one of our tracks. It's just like one play,
Well, exactly. It's getting stuff out there, and Janice Long does it, and Steve Lamacq used to do it, and John Peel used to do it, and there used to be, Top of the Pops and the Tube, and all these. Old Grey Whistle Test, and we're showing our age now. Oxford Roadshow, and used to get like loads of music programs on TV, and I mean, like Andy said in previous episodes, I mean, apart from Jules Holland, you don't really get that much live music on TV anymore. That's
such a shame. So, so we just want to do our bit, and because there is so much good stuff out there if people look for it. And I do countless playlists to my friends like once a month. Tell me what you're listening to because I love what you play, and I just send it to them now because I think the best compliment we had, Logan, was someone said to me and Mark on one of our, I think when we did the top 30 of 2020, he said, I don't know where you guys find this music, but I'm absolutely loving it. And I'm going to have a serious argument with my Spotify algorithm. And I turned to Mark and said, I'm complete now because that's all I've ever done this for, because that's all we want to do, which is why, we want to meet people like you and just get people to know, interesting guys like yourself that have got an amazing career, done some incredible music, and we just want people to know about it. So,
But we've tried to put as much emotion into the album.
You can feel it.
So, and we've got contributions from Gary Barnacle on saxophone, and I should say Jan Linton, who kind of makes these kind of quirky guitar sounds and a bit more experimental, and he's really helped to elevate our sound.
Yeah, it definitely works, mate. I mean, it was just like instant love as soon as I put it on. Because but it's actually some of our guys on Facebook who went, have you heard this? Have you heard this? So I went, no, I'm going to go and check it out. And that's when I got in touch with you and said, mate, absolutely loving this. It's a great piece of art. So thank you for it. It's great. And
has lockdown been kind to you in so much as it's given you this window to write a whole load of new songs to go on to the next album, or has it been productive?
It was productive because when I moved to Hamburg, it's a bit complicated, but basically I kind of was working for my old company, but then at some point I had to kind of stop working. So I was out of work, basically. I was. So I had 6 months. So that really gave me lots of time to really finish the album off. Now that the computer's died, I think we're going to look at the music differently in the future.
It'll all be quantized and pitch shift and
I don't know. I'm thinking of making it the
auto
opposite.
tune. It'll have all the gadgets on there. I'm sure it will. It'll be totally different.
All bells and whistles.
Well, whenever it is, mate, and whatever it is, I know everyone will be looking forward to it. So it'd be great to hear it. But you know, as I say, what your back catalogue's great, and you know, I'm just glad that we found you through some of our fans and friends on the show. So thank you, mate. It's been a really interesting chat and good to meet you.
I was really surprised with the volume of your output, really, because you did a thing on Bandcamp a few months ago where you could buy your whole discography, which I did, and it was just literally so much stuff came through that you guys have done. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I think we've done over like 130 tracks.
Wow,
possibly as many as that.
Yeah.
Gee. And it's all good quality. So yeah, I'm just saying, as Mark says, hope more people download the whole back catalogue. So yeah, because it's really good music. So thank you, mate.
But Logan, thank you for your time this afternoon. Really appreciate it. And keep in touch. And anything that you have or want us to put out there, we'll obviously do. And we'll do our bit, albeit small, to get yours and Stephen's music out there.
I've got tickets for the Heaven 17 performing the reproduction, the Heaven 17.
I'm going. You going to the Roundhouse for that?
I'm not sure if I can get back now. So the thing is, that was the day that the lockdown started last March. Right. So, and I had people flying over from America and Europe to meet up to go to that gig, and then they had to cancel. So and now
you're coming over to that. Let me know, and I'll see you for a big. I'm going.
Yeah, there's a small chance on that. Yeah, otherwise I'll have my tickets will be available. So, so I might have to do a surprise competition if when this goes out, if I can't make it, I'll leave a message in the comments, and
amazing.
Might be some tickets going.
I might just win it myself. Andy didn't ask me this time, so I'm not going. But
I'm sure I did. But I think it was one of those things. I said I'll just take my missus out for a night out because me and Mark are called out on deck. So it was one of those rare occasions. I thought I'll take the missus to that, and booked it over a year and a half ago, as you say, Logan. So it's just kept moving and kept moving.
Well, Logan, thanks again for your time. Really do appreciate it, especially right in the middle of your day. You're an hour ahead, aren't you? So, but I appreciate you taking the time speaking to us, and please do keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Logan, it's been an absolute joy, mate. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to the next album.
Cheers, Logan. Speak soon. Take care.
So that's it for another episode of the Electronic Cafe. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Logan Sky. Logan, thank you, mate, for coming on. It was brilliant. Really enjoyed it. Hope to see you all soon on the next episode of Electronic Cafe. And don't forget, look out for more great interviews, more mega hot stuff episodes where you're going to discover some of the hottest music that's out there right now via the courtesy of Mark and myself. And some of you guys out there, yeah, you guys out there are going to come on the show at some point. Mark and I will organise with certain individuals where we think they should come and tell you guys about some of the hot stuff that they're listening to, not just Mark and me. So look out for all this cool stuff coming on. I say more great interviews. We've got more artists lined up to come on, and so you can get to know them and their music. So yeah, we hope you're loving the Electronic Cafe as much as Mark and I are in terms of putting it together for you. Stay safe, take care, bye for now.
Stay safe, take care, and thanks for watching the Electronic Cafe. We'll see you again soon. Bye bye.